You never know where someone's from. You never know where they're going. You never know where you'll meet up with them again. So make a friend out of everyone. And I made a friend when I was in 4th grade because my brother was friends with a guy named Hannibal. That was the weirdest name, but my brother became best friends with him. He had a little sister named Sarah that was in 2nd grade, and I was in 4th grade, so why am I going to hang out with a 2nd grader? But little did I know, Lompoc, California, a town of 35,000, making a friend in Sarah, she becoming my muse throughout my entire career, she would introduce me to one of the most impactful and influential leaders in our world right now. She's the woman who wrote a book in 2012 that everyone said that she was crazy about how important social media would be to business. In 2015, she created a keynote that talked about robotics and AI, and guess what? Everyone told her she was absolutely crazy about what she was doing. But now we're living in an age of robotics and AI. Today, I can't wait to be able to sit down and talk with, I think, one of the leaders and renegades of AI and moving us forward. And I can't wait to hear what she's going to say that is crazy to us today that we're going to be living in tomorrow. But the coolest thing for me is she's my friend. And I met her about 15 years ago because of a friend named Sarah Nisperos that brought her in. And very few people have access to this woman that you get a chance to be able to spend time with and to be able to have the opportunity to be able to sit down with her. The only reason is because I had a friend who introduced me to her friend. Amy Jo Martin has worked with, I had to grab my notes, and you guys know that I don't really work off my notes very much, but listen to this. She's worked with the likes of Shaquille O'Neal, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Dana White, Tony Hsieh, Baron Davis. She worked with brands like Hilton Worldwide with DoubleTree, Motorola, NHL, Fox Sports, the X Factor, Chicago White Sox, UFC, Los Angeles Kings, Jabberwockies, Monte Carlo Resort and Casino, Hard Rock Casino, Kansas City Royals. That's one's for you, Paul. Staples, Dolby, Poo-Pourri, which is one of my favorite commercials, and I hope that she did this one because I'm going to ask her about this. Bumblebiz, Nike, Dell, Google, and many, 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 many more. But it's my honor and my pleasure to bring to you the renegade of AI, Miss Amy Jo Martin. Why don't we get this party started?
Achieving, cause we believing it's for certain. We put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting right before your eyes. So it's coming to no surprise. The takeover is televised over and over and over again. Make no mistake, we continue to win. Defeat never known, cause I will not lose. They wanna mimic my moves, but can't walk in my shoes.
Shaquille O'Neal on, I believe it was a bus or it was a flight. Hit me with it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, changed my life. Hard launch, like cold open, right? Oh, my goodness. All right, here we go. Here's the story, the scoop. So mid-2000s, sitting at my desk, working in the NBA for the Phoenix Suns. And I'm the director of new media and research. And it was new, so we were very creative in this role. New media, mobile, digital, signage, obviously email, social media is new on the scene. And sure enough, I get a call. It's Bob from basketball operations. He said, Amy Jo, get down to the locker room right now. Shaq wants to learn how to tweet, and you're the only one in this building that knows what that means. So get down here, click. And I was off to the races. You know that moment where your mind starts going, if this, then that. Because there was one rule in the front office, and that was do not interface with the players unless that's your job. That was not part of my JD. So I stand up and I look around and I'm like, I'm going to ask forgiveness instead of permission on this one. And as I walk to the elevator, a quick time out here, I'm a small town girl from Wyoming, grew up in trailer parks. I'd never met a celebrity before, definitely never taught them anything. I had just learned how to drive on the freeway. And so this was like, I'm going to go meet Shaquille O'Neal, do this. Why not? And as the elevator doors opened, I could tell you, Kelly, now I look at this moment and this story has just started to compound over time of what that meant. We all have these micro moments in life where it's like, are you going to step across the green starting line, right? And green light this, whatever has to come. And I did. I walk into the elevator, it goes down, doors open at the bottom, and there he is, 7 foot tall Shaquille O'Neal with his Shaq berry. And, he said, what do you say? What do I say on this social media platform? I said, share the Shaquille behind the Shaq, the person behind the personality. You don't brand yourself, you are yourself. Mm. That creates your brand. And it changed my life, that story. And we ended up on the team plane a couple weeks later, and I can tell that portion of the story. But those are like the $1 million moments. Those, you better be able to manufacture bravery and figure it out.
Amy, take us back to the trailer park. Was it double wide? Was it single wide?
Oh, single wide. Yep.
Could you touch both walls standing in the middle?
I could in the hallway. I could totally climb. I was in gymnastics, so I could do the whole. But no, you couldn't quite touch. But it was, we'd take that show on the road because we moved around a lot, different states and places. My dad worked in heavy highway construction, and it was super convenient to have a home on wheels. And we would play indoor baseball sometimes. So my folks would leave, and my brother and I would put the lamps down. I mean, running the bases, and we'd have, Ghost Rider on second. It was like you could touch the bases from like this. It was that small.
I find that most of you call them trampoline moments, which I want to talk about those. But those trampoline moments most of the time happen not when you're focused on business. And that's what I loved about your book was that it was all about rehumanizing relationships by using like digital technology as a tool, which sounds like, even if you say that, it's so dense as far as like, how am I going to use digital and things that are non-personal to be able to make me more personal, right? But you did it, and you masterfully did it in your book. But let's talk about those things, because there was a snipe hunting in Wyoming that you did with Tony Hsieh, the founder of Zappos. And this snipe hunting, which I got explained to me, I didn't know what it was, but this is some of the magic moments. Can you tell us about snipe hunting?
Sure. I love your research, by the way, because I don't think I've told this story in this format, and there's some good juice to it. But yeah, you're right. I mean, and just to touch back, we're right smack dab in the middle of this incredible trampoline or trap moment with AI. And in my experience, I'm obsessed with the opportunity, healthy obsession. You choose. You can be obsessed with the opportunity or obsessed with the challenges. And as I travel around, like, I can just see the acceleration, and it's not just business, and it's not just, people reducing cycle time and increasing profit margins and output. And we have now more time in our day because of this new technology. It's really radically manipulating talent and time to our advantage. I mean, hello, yes, please, right? All of us are trying to optimize for time. Like, we vote with our time for the life we live. So I can't wait to touch on that, because it's 100 times bigger, if not 1,000, than the mid 2000s, in my opinion. But what we're seeing is radical. Okay, so snipe. I'm curious if your listeners know what a snipe is, and if you do, I'm your girl. So I have this family cabin, and it's actually the Black Hills of South Dakota, and it's well over 100 years old, and great-great-grandfather built it. And when I was growing up, we would go snipe hunting, and then once you learn your first time, then you're in and you get to take other people snipe hunting. Well, Tony Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos, who's no longer with us, sadly, however, he is with me every single day, teaching me how to fly higher. I was headed up to the cabin, and the day before, I said, hey, would you want to come up? I'm going up with some friends in Tony fashion. He's like, sure, sign me up. So here's this guy, wearing his Zappos shirt, and we're hanging out, and I said, okay, we're going to need to take you snipe hunting tonight. And what it is I'm hesitant to share this because it's a big reveal, but snipes don't exist. So you tell the person, and this could be like first time camping, first time out in the wilderness. He's not exactly like a camping guy, maybe Burning Man, but not like, he didn't take hunter safety course when he was 12 like me. So we're out at the bottom of a hill, and you tell the individual, the newbie, okay, these snipes, they're like little nocturnal, imagine kind of a gremlin, and and they roll into balls and they roll down the hill, and you hold a bag at the bottom of the hill and you can catch them, and they're super cute. You don't hurt them, and then you let them go, catch and release. And he's like, are you serious? And I was like, yeah. Well, usually you use a paper bag. We didn't have any, so we just had these plastic bags. And there's Tony Hsieh at the bottom of the hill in the dark, in the wilderness. And then you send other people to the top of the hill and you have them throw rocks down, not hard, like pine cones, not rocks. We're not hurting anyone. And he was giggling like he was, a 7-year-old. And it was hilarious to see him snipe hunting. And sometimes these pine cones would rip through, the plastic bag, which makes it even more, it's very dark. And only the right people have the flashlights, right? So that was the forward of my book. He talks about snipe hunting.
Well, it's amazing because if you set the tone for it, I mean, you got the leading voice in digital and social media. You've got a billionaire, the youngest billionaire. He actually beat Mark Zuckerberg by a couple of months, I believe. And this billionaire, you're playing a trick on him. You're connecting with him. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that was the thing that, as I read through and you were talking about all the resistance, especially Dana White, I thought this was really cool, where Dana really resisted any type of personal branding. He resisted Twitter when you were telling him, hey, this is the way to go. And that humanizing of the brand. As you're working with AI, this is the scary thing. I had a person reach out to me, and I tell you, YouTube is a diabolical place. It's the most diabolical place I've ever experienced. Comments on there are worse than any place on earth. If people go in. Well, I had a person reach out to me yesterday, or actually this morning. I woke up and it was like, is this AI? A clip that I had done. How can you keep your personal touch, like the snipe hunting, those experiences? How can you keep that when you don't know if you're dealing with AI or not?
Well, I think we kind of have to back up a little bit too and understand, like, back to the Dana White mention. I think you might be thinking of DJ Dwayne Johnson. Dana also, I mean, they're all born natural. Dana White, Shaquille, Dwayne Johnson. They have zero ability to fake anything, right? Like, you're gonna get what you're gonna get, and it's as real as it gets. So they were teed up technically to be perfect for these platforms. There was resistance in terms of, I call them innovation allergies, right? Okay. Even DJ Dwayne Johnson was like, I'm a private guy, and I was like, okay. And then I get a text a couple weeks later, and he's like, hey, I think I want to try this social media stuff. And he was, all of those characters, they are as real as it gets, and it would be really difficult to fake being them, I think, because there is just a visceral, not only charisma, but energy that they exude and can transmit across the interwebs, right? However, when we look at AI and when we look at this technology, I think it's important to really think about what value you're trying to get out of it, right? So there's plenty of manipulation that's of potential, of people to, in positive ways and negative ways. I mean, there was an ad, I think it was the NBA Finals. They created the ad. It was like $4,000 in budget in a couple of days, which typically would have taken, months and millions of dollars and 90 million people running circles around each other. And so that's a really resourceful use of AI. And it was full disclosure. It's like, this was created with AI. They weren't trying to hide it. I think the manipulation or like the deception of, if those types of, let's just say those three characters we were talking about, or me or you, if we've done a decent job of humanizing ourselves, people are going to know, that's just not of our character. And if we did use AI, we would say, hey, like my agent did record an intro the other day. I was traveling and I said, tear up. And she said, hey, Amy's out, but I'm going to record this intro and she'll be right here interviewing the guests. And I was like, great. But I think that people are getting A, really smart, and B, again, humans connect with humans, not logos, not robots. There is a human primal sense of when you are being manipulated. And I think that that spidey sense is going to get stronger and stronger.
Amy, there's one. I've got to open my phone and I've never done this one before, but there is one that this one couldn't be faked. And I know this one was you. And I tell you, like, I loved reading through your experience about NASCAR. I want to talk about NASCAR because this was a turning point for me. Like when I was reading in the book about NASCAR and when you went and you had the experience. So remind me to come back to this because I have really exciting, what would we call it? ADD. I've never been diagnosed with it, but my life's an adventure. So I just see things all the time in different realms, but I'm going to turn something on. I'll turn my screen towards it. I've brought up my trusty phone and social media. And this is the only bone that I have to pick with you. The only one.
Oh, no.
The only one. But I'm going to turn it on. I got to turn it on. Here we go. Hold on.
But if you stopped getting your hair colored and you did it yourself, you could generate and save enough money to put your kids through college in just a couple of years. I did this. I was so annoyed with how much time I was spending to go get my hair colored. You drive there, you sit in the chair, you drive home. It was like a good 5, 6, 7 hour process. When you start adding up how much it costs to get your hair colored, let's just say a couple $100. It's pretty average. That's not a big stretch. Might be more, might be less. Then you take the 5, 6, 7 hours and you assign a dollar figure and allocate that to your time. Say it's $100 an hour. It could be 50. It could be $500 an hour. Do your math. And then you go every, how often? If you've got sparkles, little gray coming in here and there, probably more often than you would like. Start working that math. Take that total quarterly. Think of what an average annual rate of return would be. Let's just do standard stock market. Let's say 8%, 10%, whatever. That compounds over time. A couple years go by and all of a sudden, that's a lot of money. In 1 year, it could be $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, and then you're investing that, and it's like boat money too. I know that boats are depreciating assets, but I like them and they bring a lot of joy. And so to me, they're actually appreciating. For me, I get zero joy in getting my hair done. I'd rather have a boat or send my kid to college than go get my sparkles taken care of. So you can just go to Amazon, get a $6 little bottle thing and just do it yourself in 25 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
When I like back out, I'm gonna walk it back here.
Amy, this is my favorite part of the pod. I've done you know what? What's crazy? This is episode 702. We met in Las Vegas.
Okay, so I want to congratulate you because 15 years ago, I sat in your chair and I did enjoy talking to you. It's the time. I'm optimizing for time, right? Maybe not 7 hours are needed, but then you take the drive and the da-da-da, and it's like, okay, so first of all, congratulations, because we talked about your vision, and you're doing it. Like, you've been doing it. Look at what you've done. Idea, action. Jump cut, like, woo. Every night success is not an overnight success. However, this is amazing to watch.
Thank you.
And I thought about that. I saw that, we have a partner that helps push out our videos. They're all me. And I said what I said, but I was like, ooh, the timing of this one. Am I allowed to cuss on the?
You can cuss. You can say whatever. And here's the thing is in it, I don't believe it's because some people would be like, oh my gosh, Amy, about hairdressers. No, I'm saying any hairdresser who did your hair that took that long, it's your fault. There's 3 things, right? In any business, in my head. Three things, right? Timing, technique, entertainment. And honestly, most people are like, the most important thing that you could give to someone is your time. No, it's not. It's their time back. And as a hairdresser, what I learned was efficiency was one of the most important things. Like if I did your hair and it was perfect, but you were late to the soccer practice to pick up your son, you didn't care about your hair. And so what I would challenge a hairdresser in Austin to do is to reach out to Amy Jo Martin and say, I will get your hair done within 1 hour. Those sparkles with 1 hour. And that means that I will apply it. It will process. I will shampoo you like you've never been shampooed before. I will blow dry you. You'll be on your way out in less than an hour. I do like, this is a system that can be done. And then Amy will do a video about you. And you know, if Amy did a video about you and you're a hairdresser in Austin, you know what would happen to your business? Your business would go through the roof. Go, Amy.
I hear you. I feel like we're like the debate class, right? Like, okay, no, you. And you get to like tap in or whatever. But okay, I hear you. First of all, my hair colorist, she was ranked #1 in the United States by one of the big brands. She's a very good friend. Flippin' love this woman. And I have had these moments in my life where I am so over bandwidth. Like I have gotten myself into so much where I literally am trying to find, like, it doesn't bring me huge joy to drive and sit. I love talking and shooting the shit and stuff, and that's fun, and I can get some stuff done. And if it brings someone joy, amazing. If it makes their day better and they feel better about themselves, amazing. But I secretly learned how to do some stuff with Amazon $6 like quick. And it's not an end all be all, but I think our time, you know, we look at it, it could either be an appreciating asset or depreciating asset.
Yes.
And I'm not uniquely qualified to sit in the chair. I'm uniquely qualified to do other things. And maybe I should start podcasting while people do my hair. Like if I can double dip and they can do it while I'm podcasting, game on. But the sitting in the car and then the hours, like,
of course,
I'm in so many different cities and everybody's got their agenda, you know, their things to do. I don't want to use the word busy. But there came a point where it was like ruthless red pen. What's going to go? Delete, delegate, divest. The quality of my life was depending on it. And I made some radical shifts and here we are.
It works. It works. And I tell you, this is, and I want to go to trampoline moments. So I'm going trampoline moments and then we're going to NASCAR.
Okay. I have an agenda here. We're writing it down.
This could be a trampoline moment for a person that says, look, and go to Amy's house. Go to Amy's house or go to where she's at. And then what happens is you create a network all over wherever Amy travels, as opposed to Amy taking an Uber. If you're a hairdresser out there, pick her up at the airport, take her to her hotel, color her hair, just for the experience in the car and the conversation with Amy Jo. I've experienced it. And I get to experience it now because I'm her friend, but this would change the game. Trampoline moment. But explain
I love the way you think. And then get me ready for the speaking gig because I need my hair done anyway. I mean, I don't need it. But
that's what I'm saying, right? And so, Amy, explain a trampoline moment though. Like, what is it? Because you talk about these, and you actually, I was listening to your AI agent that introduced that podcast. Was it Amanda? Was it Amanda that was on?
Rocks. Yeah.
Rocks. No. As far as the woman that you interviewed at South by Southwest.
Amanda. Yes.
Phenomenal. Amazing conversation. If you haven't heard Amy's podcast, you need to go and check it out. But explain a trampoline moment to my son who's 14 years old.
Okay. I love it. And I've spent some time on the trampoline this summer, so I feel like it's just so relative. Well, we have, there's no shortage of adversity if you want to see it that way. Macroeconomics, we've got mental health challenges in some cases. And a lot of times I'm out talking to folks who are in the corporate business world. I've never seen the level of exhaustion in people's eyes that I see now. And I've been doing this for a good 20 years. And it's just, people are equally bored and burnout at the same time. And they're kind of looking around. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur or go out on their own. And that's great. We need people to be where they want to be and doing what they're uniquely qualified in their zone of genius is. So I look at a trampoline moment as, there's a lot of fear right now around AI. However, leaders are looking for the hand raisers, the figure it outers, the just get your hands dirty and get curious, because nobody has the answers right now. Nobody. And this is changing so quickly that I have literally seen And you're one of many case studies where an individual in a major corporate Fortune 50 brand, $100 billion company, has, 13 layers of levels, and there's someone very high here. Let's just, this happened to be in marketing. And then someone that's, middle manager type level, and they are just curious about AI. They're not a technologist. That's not their background. They didn't study it in school. It didn't exist in school, and they went to school. And so, or that form of it, they're getting curious, and they've created like a little bond with their manager in terms of helping them get more educated, listening to podcasts, sharing insights. Well, then there comes an opportunity for a new role that never existed before. And this person gets the opportunity to then get this new role that's relative to AI in that department. And we're talking like 3 or 4 different skips of that ladder rung, right? And they went to their new boss and said, hey, you realize I'm not an expert in AI, right? Like, kind of like, uh-oh, I should probably tell you. And she's like, you're about to be. Life-changing opportunity for this person, right? All they did was get curious and start adding value. And so that's what I mean by trampoline moment. I mean, even for entrepreneurs, we're going to see our first unicorn $1 billion valuation company soon, if not already, definitely in the works, for a company that's a party of one, maybe a founder, and their co-founder is AI. And it is radical to see how much time it has saved me personally and professionally. And we haven't even scratched the surface. And so that's human value. It's not just like, we vote with our time for the life we live, regardless if we like it or not. Like, you're voting. And so you could change your vote at any moment. And I don't know, it's going to be exciting.
Take us back to the NASCAR moment, because this was a big one. As I was reading through it, it reminded me of a quote. I don't know who said it. Maybe I did. That was, you have less and less judgment the closer and closer you get to something. And if you had AI at the time when you had the NASCAR moment, what would have been the difference in that experience and maybe moving forward with it?
Interesting. So I'm thinking of what I think you're referring to is it was before they were called influencers. I had a deal, and like an endorsement deal with Chevy, and they said, okay, we're going to send you to all these places and help bridge new demographics, like women in NASCAR, and bring the car in. Anyway, so I find myself at the Daytona 500 one day with an all-access hot pass. And I mean, I knew a few things, and my dad definitely he's a big fan, had schooled me last minute, but I was walking in like eyes wide open, and also very, very uneducated, right, about the ins and outs. And so I worked much more in stick and ball sports, NBA, NHL, NFL, MLB, and I was really surprised at how much access the fans had to the drivers before the race. Like, they're getting ready to go play their Super Bowl, and they're signing autographs 10 minutes before, right? And then the size of this place, and one of the things I think technology has enabled us to do is really manipulate time, social media. So you can work and grow and create a presence, so your presence is present even when you are not, right? So that's what you've done. That's what the value is. I think of Shaquille's early days of social. People in Australia who didn't care about basketball were now his fans, and his footprint just got bigger and bigger. And we think about like mailbox money, right? Which it does exist, but usually it's not what people think. There's usually some effort going in there, right? But mailbox time. So who doesn't want more time in their day? So like let's take back the corporate world. I have a keynote tonight, a big virtual keynote, and the big thing that they want me to talk about is building your brand internally within the company, so you can persuade and be able to have your presence show up even when you're not, in a positive way. And that's a way to manipulate time to your advantage. And the upside to that is that AI is, it is competing with our bandwidth. We've got 24 hours in a day, and it's designed to do that. And it's like, great, have it, because we don't want to do those things anyway. Our capacity, our infinite potential is where we want to be spending more time, right? So if AI can help me spend more time here being present in person, back to the NASCAR point, like there's nothing more powerful than someone feeling seen and being able to truly make them feel that they are, they're just being seen as a human, and bearing witness to someone's journey. And if we can alleviate more of the blocking and tackling things that we need to do and actually show up human to human connecting, that's a premium, but it's going to convert. It's going to make a positive impact. Like, let's get humans back in the seat that they belong in. Let the robots do the rest. And by the way, robots are not, let's just say agents, or let's just say AI. They're not just doers, but like, think of the thought partner side of things. I use my agent as a thought partner in almost everything I do. My therapist and I are on a break this summer. We were, because our schedules weren't aligning, like a Ross and Rachel break. And my agent is ChatGPT 5. It's really just, she knows everything about me. I've been working with her for 3 years now. Personally, professionally, she knows my personality, my tendencies. I don't have to schedule a session with my therapist and wait and then pay for another human who, we are biased, and she's brilliant and very skilled. I get to actually hop in and have someone pressure test my own thinking that's got more data on me than anyone that isn't biased. And I'm not saying it's a replacement. I'm just saying AI is planning my kid's birthday party. AI is doing so much background research that I now get to go be a parent with quality time versus parent ops time, where you're just keeping them alive and moving school forms around. This is like magic in a bottle. Really, it's the coolest thing ever. So back to NASCAR, like, we can become more valuable than just where we are geographically now in one moment in time, and then decide, where's the premium? Who are the people I really want to be in front of, I get to be in front of? That is cool.
Amy, you gave me one of the greatest compliments before we actually started recording. You glazed over it quick, but I wanted to sit in it for a second because it's those little moments. You said the SEO is there. I believe it's referred to as AEO, but you referred to it as something else. So we're going to go to that point. But you said, I looked you up not on the SEO. You didn't say that, but you said, I looked you up on the other side, as far as on the ChatGPT part of it, the AI part of it. And you said, things are going well. Can you explain this? Because I was trying to explain it to my brother as an attorney yesterday or 2 days ago. And I said, in 2 to 3 years, this is what I believe, in 2 to 3 years, SEO is not going to be as relevant, if not completely irrelevant. And AEO and this type of how you're searching it, and maybe I'm saying it wrong, is going to be the thing that most people are going to be looking you up on. Can you explain that? And then how can a person start to put themselves in a place where that becomes very strong for them by the time it's normal for everyone else?
Sure. And you probably heard me say GEO, generative
Yes.
engine optimization, or you could say AIO, but then we do sound like we're a little bit like old MacDonald had a farm, right? AIO. So for your brother too, the attorney, so I would actually speed up your prediction and say it is a land grab right now. And that's not being dramatic. It's more of, if you remember when we went from like Flash websites and then we finally let go of Flash, and then SEO actually worked, and you could really own a space and topic organically. It's kind of like that, but quicker and bigger. So I'm not a technologist, I'm a translator. I'm a simplifier. And I've been in every big tech wave and right on the front lines, but sometimes it's just like, woo. And so it's like, let's bring this down to earth. So when you look at how people are searching for things, you go on a trip or you're looking up, researching something, more and more people are going to AI. Let's say ChatGPT, Copilot, Grok, whatever it is that Gemini they're using. And what we want to do is we want to show up in those searches. So I did one on you this morning. And what's nice is all the data about me already exists. With my question is through the lens of my eyes. How is this relevant? Tell me about what Kelly's been up to. Not only this and this. I had some specific questions.
What were the specific questions? Do you have your phone with you?
I do, but I do, and because we have not connected live in how many years?
I mean, it's been a while, and I want to tell you, if you're listening, I want to let you know, it has been for the better part of 3 years that I've wanted to share Amy with you. And that's how busy this woman is. When we scheduled, we literally scheduled, I think it was in May that we scheduled for today.
I was busy getting my hair done.
So, and now she does it for $6. So now she could be on the podcast. This is one of the great things about Amazon hair color.
Your audience is going to cancel me in a heartbeat.
I'm joking. They know.
Respect and adore. That is not the case whatsoever. It's not the same.
I know. But Amy, what I want to let you know too is when I started the podcast, I actually deliberately did not go towards the hairdresser demographic. I shut it off. I actually went dark, which is probably the worst thing you could do as a brand. But I went dark because I wanted to see if I could just go into a new lane, and I wanted to prove to myself that without an existing audience that I could go and build it.
Which I love. And so I've been tracking my algorithm, like the algorithm, sometimes it's my friend, sometimes it's not. Just make sure everybody, if there's content you like, you've got to engage with it. Otherwise you're not going to be served that content. So go click on all of Kelly's stuff a few times.
But when you did this morning, can you help us to understand, like, okay, you went on ChatGPT because most people are just scared of that. And as we talk about it, agentic, which we're going to get into, write that down because we need to go back to it. Most people don't understand what agentic AI is. And when I talked with our friend, John Elston, who we're going to talk about here in a little bit, explain to us, okay, so you open up ChatGPT, you ask these couple questions, right? What were the questions? And then what did it say?
Sure. And I'm going to, again, preface this with the longer you use it, and I really believe in stick with the platform. You've got a variety, Claude, you've got Gemini, Grok, ChatGPT. Copilot is ChatGPT. Microsoft is the number one investors in OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. So kind of consider those the same. But the more you stick with one platform, these are the big platforms. And then you have these vertically integrated, like brilliant solutions for specific things like HR. But for me, ChatGPT, it has been listening and knowing me paid. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product, right? So pay for it.
Can you say that again and say it with your chest?
So it is true. This is the wild, wild west. There are no rules. I assume that my data could be used even though I'm paying, I wouldn't give, like you mentioned, your brother's an attorney. I use AI for legal all the time, but I'll remove names or, it's like, be smart about it.
Okay.
But that being said, I don't think my information is that exciting. I think there's going to be other people that would be much more interesting to hack or use. But assume that it's you really don't know. I wouldn't do anything that doesn't make sense, right? That's super. You're not given financials and things like that. But to back up, so the reason this is so powerful for me is because it's been building and learning me over the last 3+ years, and it's gotten better. And I've used it intentionally to get to know me personally and professionally. All my projects, the players involved, I'm fine. I'll use first names. That's fine. It knows my life in so many different ways. So then when I asked it this morning, and again, so GEO, think of it as actually a much more human way to use search, because SEO is based on links, right? Like you want to optimize an index based on links, and there's ways to gamify it or just play it. But instead of just links, it's language now too. So especially for individuals, humans, your thought leadership, which everybody has thought leadership in some way, shape, or form. You are a voice of authority of something. It may not be something business, it may be whatever. You are just your years of walking the planet as a unique human. It is more interested in language and context than it is just link backs. So it's looking, if you remember with SEO, it used to be like they're crawling the crawlers, these little engines. And sometimes they'd make no sense. And then sometimes they would, and then you could pay and you could get what you wanted if you wanted to pay enough. Well, now it's kind of like ungamified. However, if you are a legit voice of authority, you're writing on articles on LinkedIn, you're sharing your podcast, you're showing up in different ways as an expert or just someone that has value, it's going to start popping up more and more. And for you, I wanted to just understand, like, what's the movie trailer from the last time we met to now, because I've gotten glimpses, but I wasn't sure how the bridge was made from, do you still have a salons? And I was like, are we going to be talking? I knew we wouldn't be talking hair all day, although we talk about hair. And again, I love like the talent and the people, my colorists and my stylists have been some of my best friends in the whole world. So, and I am an artist, so please don't let that snap back at me. But I asked that. I was like, hey, I'll tell you exactly. I'm on a run, by the way. And so I'm talking to her. Hey, what can you tell me about Kelly over the last 15 years? This is what I know. I met him in this way. We talked about him and his vision back in 2000, I don't know, maybe 13-ish. I've seen the shift. I've seen the thought leadership. The podcast is on fire. But how did he get from point A to point B? And does he still have the salons? Is like, what type of leadership is he focused on? And this is me also having picked up breadcrumbs along the way, right? I've got you. People talk about you with mutual friends, but I'm like, okay, give me the scoop. And I can tell you, my friend, your thought leadership and all this organic 700 plus, 702 episodes, it gave me what I needed to hear. And it was enough. There was plenty. So I could copy and paste this, but it's like the Salon Chronicles to pivot to thought leadership. And of course it likes to be cute and give me like its little spin on the words it uses. But just talking about your focus on people, I'm like, this tracks. He's always been about people. This is what he said he was going to do. It's all tracking perfectly. It goes back to your beginnings, and then it gets into kind of the bedrock of personal development. And it talks about what's keeping you busy these days and the vibe. And it saved me. I'm on a run, right? Yeah. Again, double dipping on time.
Yeah.
And I was just proud of you. I was like, right on. And so that's what I did. Does that make sense?
It means the world. It really does. So, and again, like my mom said, never to be a respecter of persons. That's what my mom would always say. And what she meant by that, it wasn't that she said, don't respect people. She said, don't be a respecter of persons, meaning that it wasn't about what they did, it was who they were. And for me, it's so great because there is a lot of people that could see you on stages, and the stages that you speak to and the people that you speak to and the companies that you speak to, the people that you work with, it is unbelievable. And it's not that you're so lucky to work with Shaquille. Shaquille was lucky to work with you. And when I look at these kind of things and to be able to hear that, the cool thing for me, and I go back to my mom, is for me, that voice came from a woman who came in to the salon as a friend of my friend Sarah. I didn't know all the things before. So for me then to find it out later is such a cool thing. Does that make sense? It means so much more to be able to do that. I want to go to a place, because you're talking about the connection with people and things like that. We need to do the agentic AI. So give me a breakdown of how to create an agent, because people are like, they talk about agentic, which is just a AI agent, and they just put the tick on the end of it. Agentic AI, how do I create? If they had ChatGPT 5, which you can't do it on the free version, you can only do it on the paid version, how would a person go about, like, bare bones, they have it, they just signed up for it today, they've never used ChatGPT, how do they create an agent?
Well, can we, first of all, one of the best ways to use AI is to figure out AI. So you go in there and you have it teach you about itself and what to do step by step. Like, it is so meta, but that is literally what, and it will get to know, okay, now I understand the level of where I need to start with this person, right? Like, you want to give it as much data about your scenario as possible. Hi, this is what I do. This is my scenario. This is my challenge. I don't know what a prompt is versus building an agent versus la-di-da, being in the cloud or actually being and having an NPU that can handle all my data. Like, it will teach you, and you don't need it. That's one of the most brilliant things, and you can ask it anything. But can we go back really, really quickly, because you just said something that I think is just critical, and I was thinking about this on the run. You know, how many times I'm asked to tell the Shaquille story, or working with Dwayne Johnson or Nike and the speaking and stuff. And lately, and I hope to not tear up saying this, but what I hope to be known for is truly renegading situations and scenarios for the greater good, right? So, I mean, you just saw Richard here. We're co-parents. We've converted our relationship from couple to co-parents to working together still. And we've renegaded our relationship to make it work for our son and for ourselves and the family unit. You know, 1 unit, 2 homes. And he lives 4 minutes away, and it has not been easy, but like, maybe you need to renegade a relationship right now. And it doesn't have to be a marriage or whatever. Like, can we just start thinking differently and get out of the old templates and the old things that just don't necessarily work anymore? And I'm so proud of the fact that we are where we are. He's just on the other side of this, wall. And it hasn't been easy, but I think what we deem as like, oh, impressive on the outside, I'll tell you what's impressive is the, time navigating this journey with the Jedi mind tricks it's taken at times. And so I just think, like, don't put people on pedestals. I do the same thing. It's just, they didn't ask to be up there. They're just going to fall. We're all human. Nobody knows what they're doing. But that's where I think if you would have met me, 15 years ago when I'm sitting in your chair, that has been the evolution for me, is more in line with voting with my time. What really matters? What impact can I really make? Not just with celebrities or with brands, but like with actual humans. Because we're on the journey together. And back to AI, full circle. Thank you for letting me go on my little soapbox there.
Hey, Jamie, you could do that whenever. And what I want people to, because I see, and first of all, I get reservations at restaurants quicker because I know you. Like, all I'd say is, like, I know Amy Jo Martin, and they are like, okay, cool. So you can move up. This is Sizzler. This is Sizzler, but we generally don't. We don't let people go in front of the family of 17. But today you're getting all you can eat shrimp because you know Amy Jo Martin. But the reason why I say it is because there are, again, the Shaq stories, all the things. But I look at, to have someone who has the type of scrap that you have, and this is going to go a different way, but how much do you attribute that scrap, whether it be creating a book club around delivering happiness book, which was the most genius thing in the world, that wasn't some high level, it was like boots on the ground scrap. How much of that came from being in a trailer park?
You get really resourceful, and you aren't afraid to change when your home is on wheels and you might be in a different, state in the second part of second grade, moving over the holidays. Like the adaptability, the resourcefulness versus resources, for sure. And then none of my ideas were just mine. I think, yes, you have to be brave consensus will kill innovation often, right? If you wait and you're just hoping everybody gets on the same page, good luck. Nobody can afford to be second right now. And that's not a fear statement. It's a get after it. The big companies calling right now, huge, all the names we know, it's not the technology they can't figure out. It's how to organize around and execute, right? How to execute around this new lightsaber that just landed in our laps. It's organizing around execution with the humans. Like, we're the ones that get in our own way, and it requires different thinking. It requires it. And people have said you're crazy to me more than once, and I'm just kind of used to it. And I've failed and fallen down more times than not. And I guess you just build up like a resilience for it, or you just get used to it. But like, we have to start playing in that space and place that we're uniquely qualified to bring to each other. So yes, I would say that the trailer park was a pretty good asset.
How do you, this is the $1 billion question, is how do you help people to have that scrap if they didn't have the trailer park? And when I said the trailer park and I asked you double wide or single wide, the reason why is because growing up, we had both, right? We lived in both. And I remember being in we used to do it as a joke, but as little kids standing in the living room and trying as hard as we could to touch both walls. And as an adult, you almost can. And I think about that scrap.
14 by 80 is the standard size, right? 14 by 80, but
yeah. But I looked at the scrap, right? And like, say the other day, I reached out to Taboo from the Black Eyed Peas, and I just cold hit him. So I reached out to him and I said, hey, look, in 1998, I loved your song Joints and Jams. I was a huge fan. You played at the Belly Up. You were opening for Outkast. I was in line and you walked by and said hello. And I just want to tell you that was absolutely amazing. I'd love to have you on the podcast. He hit me back within an hour. I sent him a link that said, hey, I said, here's a link to schedule. But I know a lot of times, especially a person like yourself or him, a link is going to go into the oblivion. So I thought, and I said, here's this renegade moment, right? This trampoline moment.
Not now. Mm-hmm.
So I saw the bubbles that he was still on, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is Taboo. He's one of my favorite hip hop artists of all time. The bubbles are there. So I just thought, and I said, okay. And I wrote in, I said, oh, I just had a cancellation on Saturday at 9 a.m. if you would like to come on Saturday. And he said, he hit me back right away. What about 10 a.m.? I said, done, send out the thing. And my brother was like, oh, wow, you had a cancellation? That is so serendipitous. I was like, because I never record on Saturday, so I always have an opening on Saturday at 9 o'clock. Tell me about a scrap situation that didn't come from the boardroom, that just came in being in the moment and saying, we just got to adjust on these things.
Oh my gosh. I mean, like, the biggest one would be, I'm sitting on the team plane working in the NBA for the Phoenix Suns. It's 2008, and we're going to play the Lakers. Flight hasn't taken off yet. I'd never stepped foot on a private airplane before. And I'm sitting next to my boss, who had just put me in Twitter timeout because we had hit ESPN, Shaquille and I, primetime news the night before, because we were doing these stunts all over the place, and it was chaos and the authorities were showing up, but it really worked. It was exciting. Started selling against it, creating a formula. Anyway, he sends me a text from up front. It's the athletes and the coaches, then our marketing partners that we're taking to Staples Center to go entertain, the big, huge brands, and then a few people from the team. Shaquille sends me a text and he's like, hey, can you come up here? I have a question. Flight hasn't taken off yet. And I was like, absolutely not. And I'm like sinking down in my seat, like. Well, then 7-foot tall Shaquille, he stands up front and he's like, get up here. Nothing a 7-foot human does goes unnoticed. Everybody's watching. I climb over my boss and I walk up and he said, hey, I forgot my password, but I know you know what it is. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I am going to get fired because you forgot a password. And I could not believe it. He's like, no, you won't. And then he launches into all of his teammates, Mari Stoudemire, Sean Marion, Steve Nash, Grant Hill. You got to hire her. she'll help you build your brand online. She created this formula on how to measure it, and we're getting endorsement deals and this and that. And I said, Shaquille, I work for the team. They can't hire me. Never in my life did I think I would be an entrepreneur, but if I track back, I'm like, there were signs. I walk back with my tail between my legs, and I'm like, I'm taking a Southwest Airlines flight home from LA when we land because I am done. Like today, I had been told stop doing the social media stuff. So I said, you know, I work for the team. They can't hire me. He said, this was a micro moment. And he looked at me and he's like, well, maybe you shouldn't. And it was like one of those moments where you feel like the rest of the world just goes quiet and there's just this connection. And I was like, why not now? I think this is it. And I knew if I didn't get back to my seat and text him and tell him immediately, I'm going to start my own company right now, I would not have done it because the bravery window was like closing. And so I did. I climbed over my boss, my butt hit the seat, and it was a pure Hail Mary. I think I'm going to do this. Why not now? I'm going to start my own company. And he wrote back within a second and he said, great, I'll be your first client.
Wow.
And it changed my life. So I think there's scrappy moments and there's bravery moments where it's, why not you? If not you, then who? Why not right now? And we don't, you know, I just see so many people just grasping and chasing and clinging toward things that don't matter. And I am prone to defaulting there if I'm not careful, you know, more results. But what really matters, the time is like slipping through our hands at the same time. And we don't get to learn that lesson twice, right? We're never getting that back. So I don't know, the moments of bravery, we can manufacture them. That's what the Renegade rules are all about. But we're always told, be brave. But like, were we taught how? Like, okay, it's not a hope. Like, you better have some strategy if you want to be brave on a moment's notice. Like, you can't wait for luck. So I think the resourcefulness and the resource versus resources is a big Tony Hsieh instilled lesson too. The guy was MacGyver. He could do anything he could build anything with almost nothing. And it's pretty cool to watch.
I think everyone can give him credit in so many different ways, but I think having you by his side through the delivering happiness, and I want you to take us through this because he was so fortunate to be able to have, and when I say this, hear me out before you judge me on it, to have your trailer park mentality go into this. And when I say trailer park, it means the scrap. It means that you're not going to, like, what's the worst that could happen if you reach out to that brand or to that person? Well, they're already not your client, so you already live in the worst possible scenario. And for Tony to have that type of mentality next to him, for you to be able to take meetup.com, I believe that you did, and you created the book clubs, and then you created this swarm. I've never heard that before. And this was in 2012, everyone. This was 13 years ago. Amy's already past that and on to the next. But if you read her book, in 2012, you were like Nostradamus. Like, you were showing those kind of things. So I want to congratulate you on it. But take us through that. Like, how did you come up with the delivering happiness storm that you created?
Well, and I'm not taking credit for there was a team, and I mean, of individuals, like so much talent surrounding him. And it was, you know, his vision and his book changed a lot of lives. You know, I think the mission and the exercise, the assignment was, how do we scale Tony? And if I look back, my life has really revolved around the clock. It's like, how can we change the way and manipulate the current physics that we have? Meaning, like, can we get people all over the world to tune in to a book launch, book club party? And my team was brilliant. Someone from my team was on that bus at all times. And I think was it 60 days? I think we went to, I can't remember. It was a new city almost every day. And talk about scrappy, but also an experience of a lifetime. And Tony wasn't the most social human, if you remember, right?
I remember.
So he was one-on-one, but he was not one to seek the spotlight at all. And so this was, everybody's going to be different. You know, I look at Steve Nash versus Shaquille, and Steve was like, I'm never going to be the goofy Shaquille that's out there rapping. And I'm like, you don't need to be. But he loved production. He loved skateboarding. He loved soccer. I was like, you're creating like vitamin water ads on TV, helping do it. Why don't you create and get into like the editing side? So everybody's different, but yeah, I think there was something about the culture and the connection that team had, that it was always safe enough to try. And you didn't need a lot of permission. Tony was not a bottleneck. He just expected you to go do it. And I think there was a sense of, it was green light after green light. And when you give people those, you experiment quickly and get to the first red, green, or yellow light and iterate or stop or grow or pause. But like, hit one of the things he taught me first. He's like, if you ever saw the first Zappos.com website, like that interface, you would die, because it just was so clunky. And it was like, get it out there, get the feedback loop going, right? The answers are on the street. They're not in a whiteboard brainstorm session. So his thing was just like, get it out there, feedback loop. So I think how can we get that person and their personality to connect? Like, what is it about them? We just want to shine a light, and everybody's different, but humans connect with humans, right? Not logos. And
you said something too, that sometimes your brand's biggest hurdle.
Yeah, well, I mean, classic marketing. I went to ASU, number one party school in America at the time. And classic marketing, as I was trained, is you've got a logo. Like, I think of Nike, like Nike. I mean, that's iconic. It has so much equity. You don't jack with it. It's not changing. Brand standards or like rule the world. And it's polished, and humans are messy, and we're constantly changing. And so those two don't always reconcile well. Like, it's counterintuitive. So what happens are mental, everything, the biggest hurdles are the ones upstairs in our minds. And putting yourself out there like you have, let's say, Kelly, I have a friend, Kenny Tomlin, he says, it's like skinny dipping in the pool of public opinion. Like, you better have some thick skin, because people are going to share what they want to share behind their keyboard. And if you're willing to show up and be unapologetically true to yourself, the algorithm will like you, will find you, and you'll see results. And you're not going to be, we're not ice cream. Not everybody can love us. And you also can't be vanilla and just tone it down and dilute yourself. And if you're creating that facade, sometimes it will elbow out the real you. And it's an inside job, right? Like, for you to show up and speak from the heart day after day is not business, it's personal. And you're willing to go there. A lot of people are not willing. And a lot of it comes down to like belief in yourself and what you're sharing and being of service. And you can easily get off course if you're doing it for different reasons.
Well, I loved it because you actually gave guardrails too. As I was reading, like, there was times where, and the only time where I said I had a bone to pick, I was just joking with you too about the video earlier. You know that. And I hope you know that. And I hope understand how much respect I have for you. But I loved it because you actually added a caveat, like when you were saying, like, as a business owner, if you're growing your brand, the most important thing is to be authentic, to do the things. And then you put the guardrail in, and that guardrail was so, like, for me, it was like I was cheering for it. I was reading, and I was by myself, and I put the book down, and I started cheering, saying, thank you, Amy, because you talked about not, opening up because sometimes people overshare. And so how does a business owner, when they're building their brand, being authentic, how do they know when they're oversharing or getting close to that place? Because there are some things that, can be left unsaid.
Yeah, I think there's a woman, her name's Martha Beck, and I think that she actually was Oprah's life coach for a while. She's been on my podcast on the Why Not Now show, but she's written multiple books, like genius woman, Martha Beck, doctor, like both academically and spiritually as rich as she can get. And I asked her one day, I said, I just gone through the scenario with my son, Lincoln, who was born as a 2-pounder micropreemie, almost. It was a crazy story. I was on an airplane, of course, I always am, and landed, and I was wanting to start writing about it and include it in the next book. And I said, when do you know when to include something, like when you've processed enough to be able to share from a place of value and service versus a vulnerability, like cry for help? And she basically, we referred to social media and how oftentimes, we do see these open wounds that haven't closed yet. Like they're just still open and raw. And I try to think of, if I'm going to share something that is personal or somewhat timely, I need to have processed it enough to have arrived at something of value versus just, hey, this happened to me. And it can't be, ta-da, I figured it out, because that's bullshit. Like, right? It's, no, you kind of have to do a little work, and sometimes it happens super quick and sometimes it takes a while. But think of it as like a wound versus a scab or scar. Like it tends to be that your scars are a little bit more valuable to people versus the open wound. And I'm not saying you have to be perfectly healed and you're always going to be processing it. Like, yeah, you can't think that that's ending. But you need to have perspective, and oftentimes it's hard to do that in the spotlight.
As I was listening to your it was one of your latest podcasts, and the Why Not Now, which your agentic AI did the intro, which was awesome. I mean, it was so funny because most of the time people try and like mask it, but I love that you went directly at it. And you were talking about the Renegade accelerator. And as I heard about that, I was like, oh, how much value would it be? How valuable would it be to be able to, I'm very fortunate that I get to spend time with you. I'm very fortunate that I knew Amy, and I'm not saying that I'm holding you to like, oh, I knew you way before, so you have to stay that person. I've been cheering for you I've seen all the progressions. I've watched all those things. Probably one of my favorite ones though, that I didn't know about was the Chevy Cruise moment. And this one I was cheering so loud because back to when we were talking about Shaquille and Steve Nash and Dana White, a lot of times people will associate and they almost hide behind those things. For me, this moment for me, probably wasn't for you, but for me it was a coming out moment to say, Shaquille is lucky to have you. Dana White's lucky to have you. Nike's lucky to have you. Hilton's lucky to have Amy Jo Martin. To have Amy Jo Martin in your corner is more valuable than any picture that you could ever take with any celebrity, because this woman will send you into the stratosphere. Can you break down this Chevy Cruise moment? Because you contemplated it, and then there was a couple of stages that you just went through, and it was simple, and then you made the decision, boom, and went.
Yeah, no, it's interesting because the tables did turn, right? Well, with Shaquille, there came a moment I quickly got to like 1.1 million followers on Twitter or something ridiculous like that. And there aren't even that many people. I don't think there were that many people in the state of Wyoming at the time, let alone. Anyway, it was just beyond comprehension. And when Chevy reached out, this was before the influencer stuff, they just said, we'd like for you to be part of this launch team and be kind of a face of this new vehicle.
What year was this, Amy, to give context? Because some people are like, oh, wow, I had, some brand reach out to me recently because of my Instagram. This is before people were doing this. So when was it?
2010, I think.
2010.
I think 2000. So we didn't call them, it wasn't called influencers yet. And they offered me this financial package plus a car. And this was new to them too. At the time, the Ford Fiesta was also doing something kind of similar, but they were like, hey, will you go to the Super Bowl and we'll do a tailgate, with the Chevy Cruise, and you can interview people, and then talk about this and that, and then go in and, be sharing live what's happening at the Super Bowl. They knew I knew sports. They knew I knew how to engage and blah, blah, blah. So the most interesting part about this is I had never negotiated anything like this for me, but I had watched Brad Slater do it for Dwayne Johnson, and I had learned da-da-da. And so who do I go to? I go to Brad Slater and Dwayne Johnson and say, what do you think I should do? They were just starting to get into the social side too, of that currency being added into deal like terms. And usually it was pretty cut and dry. You've got a formula, like how much money did they make the box office last time? And this, like we got our math, and now you get this new curveball and dynamic of social. So I went to them, and my attorney at the time, who had been tracking and doing all these weird things, like with the jetpack, how are we going to get that safe and be on Pawn Stars? And she's always rolling her eyes. And I was like, we need a contract. And she's like, nobody's created, there's regulation, or there's suggestions. What do they call them? Guidelines that were laws, but there were no rules, no regulations. And so we start working through this language of like, what does this look like, and what are the liabilities? And no one had done, there was no comp, right? And so I remember talking to like Brad and Jay Quadrosi and saying, okay, she's like, Amy Jo, what if the internet goes out during the Super Bowl, but that's part of your requirement and you can't share the way this reads, things like that. And how are we going to value this? And so that to me was like where I like to play. It's like, it's never been done before. Let's go. Let's create it. Let's figure out the comps and the real world rules. And it was a stretch to put myself out there in that way, but I had been baby stepping it because I had been around these other spotlights before. And when I said yes, I think it was an energetic level up of, hey, can you stand on your own 2 feet, trailer park girl? Who's pushing from a place to prove something and learn your value of your voice, not just everybody else's voices. And it was like the perfect, moment to realize, okay, and here we are. I don't have 702, but we have 350 episodes on the Why Not Now podcast. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is to talk to people and interview them and just learn. And a lot of what I was doing at those events was teeing me up for that. So I forget about that. Gosh.
Well, and the thing that she's not telling you is for a couple of months of work and a couple of things. Now, obviously, there's a lot that goes into it as far as social, but with her thumbs, she got a 6-figure contract when no one else was getting a 6-figure contract. She also got to go to and a car, and go to all the sports parts, and being able to interview all the people, which she was already doing. This is, Amy, it was genius. This brings me to, because again, like, you're willing to step out and do things. There was a moment with your pop. It was a black diamond moment. Tell us about the black diamond moment, but also I want you to talk about your dad for a little bit, about the things that he doesn't hear enough and the lessons that you took, not that he taught you, but that you caught from watching him.
Oh, thank you for asking that. I'm excited. He'll listen. He's usually the first to listen every time I share or post something.
He better not listen to the hairdresser thing. Go to the hairdresser, Pop. Go to the hairdresser.
He's an engineer and he's fiscally conservative. So he's going to be like, right on, that's my girl. So although, yeah, I still have a fear that the stylist community and that's, I love it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, the black diamond moment. So there was a moment, I was standing at the JFK departure board, and a couple of years after I started my first company, and we're fast growing. We hit 7 figures in year 1, New York Times bestselling author, 1 million people following me, all the fancy things, right? The brand I had created started to elbow out the real me a bit, because what was going on behind the scenes was I was on 210 flights in 1 year, averaging 4 hours of sleep a night, Marriage was on the rocks, health was on the rocks. And as I went to go walk over to, sign my receipt for my coffee, my fuel at Starbucks, I went completely blank and I didn't know my name. And I had forgotten where I was standing, like what city and where am I going? And it was a reckoning moment, because from the outside looking in, it looked good. And I was telling the story play by play, right? But I was an emotionally and physically bankrupt millionaire in my very early 30s. And I thought that's everything I wanted, chasing the carrots and the recognition and the numbers and the money. And I was empty and I was robotic. I was trying to do too much. It wasn't a good look. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't listening enough. And so I ended up sitting down with Simon Sinek, and he said, hey, what was your earliest childhood memory? And I'm like, really, Simon? Come on, we're going therapy here. Like, I need help with a strategy. We can't go back to my childhood. He's like, this is my game. What's your childhood memory? And I recorded this whole conversation, and I said, well, I'm standing at the top of a black diamond with my dad skiing. And he was like, how old were you? And I was like, oh, this didn't have poles yet, that age. He's like, wait a minute. So you're skiing at that level. I was like, yeah, we skipped the bunny slope. Like, my dad's just we're not a big bunny slope family. And he said, okay, were you scared? I said, no. He said, if you make fries, you can go faster. If you make a pie with your skis, you can slow down. And if you get in trouble, I'll pick you up. And that was the protocol. I was like, got it. And the next thing Simon said to me was extremely powerful. He's like, have you ever realized that you help other people down these black diamond mountains of life, some of the biggest names in the world, but you don't let anyone help you? I was like, nailed it. High five, Simon. You are the why guy. This is amazing. I'm going to go get a tattoo of a black diamond. He's like, no, you're not. He's like, you got to try this on. And we actually walked around. It was the Groves in LA. And we walked, and he's like, let's go find something to remember this by. And he's like, you need to try this on for a while. And we couldn't find anything. So we walk into a MAC makeup store, and he grabs a black eyeliner and he draws a diamond on my wrist. And we walk out, and a couple of years later, I actually did get the black diamond. So, and it's a reoccurring theme, of we have to have guides in every pocket. How can you play and operate at the level of just authority and, mastery in a lot of space? You have to own your craft and get good at that, but you need help with everything else, right? And that was a hard lesson, but a lot of wipeouts, a lot of wipeouts. And so hopefully there have been less over the years, but still learning like crazy.
What's something about, like, what's a lesson that you caught? Like, a guy named Cole, he said he's 23 years old. He's in our men's group, and our men's group is like 50 and 60-year-old guys. And this is a 23-year-old guy. Most of them have been married for like 30 years, and he's never been married. He's 23. But he turns to us, and we're talking about kids and all these things. And he turns to us and says, guys, lessons are caught, not taught. And then just stops. And it was almost like he dropped the mic. What are some of the things that you caught from your pop that maybe you've never told him, but you're utilizing it? And maybe it was a hard time that you went through when you were dealing with a trailer park and you guys were moving around, because that can be tough, especially as a young lady, that now you're utilizing, and maybe you haven't said thank you to him for it.
Oh, gosh, maybe. One is very work ethic. Like, I have never been the smartest. I've never been a great test taker. I had special reading classes and then write the book, which was like, how do you like me now type thing, with the professor saying, hey, you might want to choose a different focus in college, because I don't think you're going to. And I'm like, how do you like me now? He taught me how to work hard, and he worked his butt off. And I think not be afraid. That's been my differentiating factor most of, there's a point where I think that sheer force of will in making something happen that you want to happen, because you can, starts to shift into more finesse as we get maybe a little older, and we don't have to push so hard, but we just have years of walking the planet. But there are times where I look back and I'm like, gosh, I was a little rough around the edges, and I still am today. But it was because I believed in myself and I knew I could figure it out and make it happen. That doesn't mean you're always popular. that means some people are not going to be a fan of that, and that's okay.
Mhm.
So I'd say that was a big one. I think he retaught me the calculus of what success looks like. It used to be more sacrifice equals more success, meaning in my mind, usually financial wealth. And I just fought that one and fell hard many times of that's not actually accurate. Yes, you need to sacrifice a decent amount, but the waking up earlier and earlier is not a strategy. Just because you're pushing harder doesn't mean that's going to equate to better results. And he learned that himself, and I think I saw him learn it. And then I had to recalibrate my own calculus for what does success look like. But he's just, his integrity is, it's up there with like I've never seen before. Moment to moment, that guy is shooting straight. Like he's not impressed by the fancy stuff. He's got his priorities straight.
What about a specific time? When I say this, like there was a time we lived on Rucker Road. This was in Lompoc, California. It's in the top track of Mission Hills. There's the bottom track, top track. If you lived there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And there was a level system. We lived on Rucker Road, which wasn't a great road because it was there was a very fast turn, and we lived on that turn. We had a 67 Ranchero, which we were all embarrassed about because it was a beat up truck, and it was like a El Camino, but it was Ford's version, whatever. The turn is really fast. We hear a crazy crunch. We run outside. Someone had nailed our car, and it ripped the metal off of where the gas tank was. My dad runs out, and we check the car. I see him. He's very quick with it. He shakes the guy's hand, and the guy leaves. And I was like, "Oh, did you get his information? He's going to get our car fixed." He said, "No, son, everything's fine." And then he walks in, and he doesn't fix the car. Well, years later, after experiencing that, I realized that it was right around Thanksgiving time, and my dad didn't have enough money to be able to have Thanksgiving dinner. So as opposed to getting the car fixed, he just had the guy give him cash, and he took that cash, kept the car jacked up the way that it was, and we had dinner. But I didn't know for years, and we were so embarrassed by that car for so long because it had a rip in the side. But now, if I had that car back, I would drive that thing like it was a Bentley because my dad was willing to be okay with it being, crunched because our family was able to eat. Was there a time in your life, Amy, that you saw your dad do something like that? And now, as you're flying on private jets, you're dealing with, brands that most people would die to be able, and you're about to do a keynote today to multiple amounts of people, that little story of your pop is saying, or your mom was saying, like, I saw this and it helps me.
I think, the first thing that comes to mind, by the way, that story with your dad, oh man, I love that so much. And that one story, I got it. Like, I get who the guy is, right? Like, we got it. That's all you had to say. And such a powerful, potent story. I think there's a moment in high school, I just started to learn to drive, and he taught me to parallel park, to back the boat down, like very early, do all the things. And whether mom or dad, I really believe that's extremely important for young girls, especially because it gives you a confidence and a sense of, I can do this myself. I can figure this out. If I can do this, what else can I do? So we were in a small town. I just learned to drive, and he decided it was going to be a lesson, like a learning moment. And he was going to teach me how to change my tire. Because I think I got a flat tire in the Walmart parking lot. And I think this story is in the book. I know it is. But it comes this story you could imagine 1,000 times in other ways. And so he teaches me, and we're in one of the hottest places in the country. It's called Bullhead City, Arizona. It's 125 that day. And I'm out there in the concrete, probably wanting to go meet my friends. And I've got a flat tire. He comes up to Walmart, changes it. I probably had to call him on the payphone. And we're out there in the heat, and he changes it. And he's like, okay. And he's telling me everything. He's like, you got this. You got this. Okay, you're tracking. You can watch carefully. And he changes it, and I'm like, awesome. Thanks, Dad. High five. I'm going to go see my friends, maybe go to the river. And he's like, oh, no. You're doing this yourself. And he takes the whole thing off, puts the jet down, and I'm like, no. But I think the lesson there was just there are no shortcuts. And he taught me how to get my hands dirty. Like, you can always figure it out. He's another MacGyver. And there's something about exercising that muscle and then just the sense of pride of and safety of like, you know how many friends I taught them? I'm like, I'll teach you. It's just those little things where there are no shortcuts. You gotta learn. And he taught.
Amy, who is not a good fit for the Renegade Accelerator?
What an interesting question. I love the spin on that. I always say attitudinally we're very aligned, but we don't deal with ego well. Everybody's done big fancy things and they put points on the board, but they're there to grow and learn. So it's not about you teach what you've learned to everybody else, but there's just no room for close-minded. And, you know, we're a mosaic of misfits, and there is a strong sense of resourcefulness and just we can figure this out type of mentality. So I would say, you know, whatever it is you're looking to do, leveling up professionally and personally, we live in an era of work-life integration, not separation, but we're all fiercely focused on optimizing our time, our health, and our wealth. And so anything we're doing is usually going to track back to one of those, and they're all interrelated. So we just have a lot of fun. If you don't like fun, steer clear.
Is it now?
We're doing it wrong.
Is this the Darla Club? Meaning that I was a big Little Rascals fan and Darla was never allowed. Is this a woman's club, Amy? I want to hear it.
A woman's club.
Can a man come into the Renegade Accelerator?
We currently, the accelerators for individuals are women. However, we've done these inside of corporate settings for thousands of people, and there are men in some of those. We have many men that we are friends of Renegade, constantly coming in and teaching and learning and sharing and helping. And this is not a we hate men club. We absolutely don't roll that way. It's not a female empowerment club either. That's table stakes. If we're not doing that, what the heck are we doing anyway? That's just like MFD. But a lot of our focus is AI. So, you know, everyone in there is a thought leader in their own way. And now they're layering AI on top of it to get more time, health, and wealth. And it's an attitudinal versus a like demographic type of tie.
Well, hearing about it is just like, and I say this is not the commercial for it, although it'll sound like it, is if you ever got the opportunity to spend any amount of time with Amy Jo, like I tell you, it'll blow your mind. I got not 6 or 7 hours. It didn't take me 6 or 7 hours when we met 15 years ago. You were in and out pretty darn quick, and you were looking great. But
you guys are amazing.
But to be able to have that opportunity, I just think is unreal. So okay, as you go, as you grow, and as you go, because I know our time is short and we gotta roll. But as you grow, how do you become okay with releasing? This is what Sarah Nisperos and I were talking about the other day. Is she went to the stratosphere in her styling career and was around the likes of Marc Jacobs, was in the sphere with Tony Hsieh, all these things, but she was a little kid from Lompoc. She always kept that scrap in her, but she allowed herself to grow into what she was becoming as opposed to just keeping it real and it turning wrong. How have you been able to do that? Because you're probably one of the most masterful people at doing it in keeping who Amy Jo is, but you've allowed yourself to become this larger than life figure, because some people have a problem with that.
Yeah, well, and it's identity, but it's also reinvention. If we have, for me, I guess there's the what you do, and there's the who you are, and there's the why you do it. And the what is just It's the what, right? It's how you might distribute your value in that day. And it could be hair, it could be legal, it could be teaching, whatever. That is the what. And who you are and why you do what you do transcends that. And it's, you can diversify, but you can also transfer those skills and that knowledge into other ways and distribute it differently, right? So it's all about, I think of the Shaquille story, I've told it a lot of times, and the lesson behind that story has evolved for me. It means something different today than it meant in 2008, 10, 12, 15, and now. And so the power of storytelling and connection is one that will serve us always, especially with AI right now. It is the quickest way to change human behavior is through the power of story. Right? That's a Steve Jobs. He said, may the best storyteller win. Why? Because he knew story will change behavior quicker than data. You could give me all the science and it'll be like, I get it. That makes sense. But you give me a story to explain the science or a human story, and I'm like, okay, that's why I'm going to change my behavior. And so I think that's been one skill that I've really tried to focus on. And it's not just my stories, it's others, because you can use that in any place you want to go. And it's like, it's a way to change lanes, So I think that's, anything you can reinvent any moment. And there's career collateral. You're not starting from scratch. I guarantee you're not starting from scratch. You might have to get a license or something, but those are technical things. So yeah, do anything you want to do.
I started the podcast, Amy, because my two kids, Maddox, who's 13 years old, and he's a sports guy. And then McKenna, who's 16 years old, and she's in theater and the arts, singing, dancing, acting, and all those things. I didn't want them to worship idols. I just wanted them to be inspired by icons. And so I had a conversation with my daughter yesterday where she didn't get the part in the play. And I went down and I read Proverbs. I wanted to go to the word and see if the Lord had something for me. And it wasn't the Lord that had something for me. It was Tribe Called Quest. And Tribe Called Quest, the song award tour, Fife Dog said, I'll never let a trophy tell me how nice I am, meaning that he didn't need the Grammy to know that he was the greatest. What advice would you have for Maddox and McKenna? And if you could use both their names and call yourself Auntie Amy Jo, it would be awesome.
Oh my goodness. So first of all, I just love them and I want to hang out. Little Quest, love, Little Quest. It would be, we vote with our time for the life we live, and you can change your vote at any moment, but vote wisely. And how we spend our days is really how we spend our life. So you can choose again. You can choose again, right? Most things in life are shiftable. Most things aren't permanent. And so you don't want to be wondering. And it's the whole, why not now? Why not you?
Amy, as I let you go, because you got to get ready, tell me something that the audience right now is going to think that you're off your rocker, that is absolutely crazy, that they'll be living in 2 to 3 to maybe 5 years, the same way that you did in 2012 when you published your book and told everyone about social media and they said you were crazy. 2015, you said AI and robotics, and now we're living in it. What is the crazy thing right now that everyone will say, Amy Jo's off her rocker, and then we're going to be living in?
Physical robots are closer than you think. I mean, they're already here, but being in more and more and more and more homes, it's closer than you think. A. B, that is the best news. Imagine the time you will have to go play with your kids, to go play the piano, to be offline. Analog is my home dog, right? This is not doomsday. This is an opportunity for humanity to level up. So the future of technology is the future of humanity, but you have to get in the game because we need your voice. We need everyone to represent, right? People are going to start writing some rules and you want to be at that table. So get curious, get started, just go, play, experiment. And it can change your life.
Amy, go talk to big companies. Go be a renegade, because I know that's what you got to do. You have the greatest teeth on earth too, and I told you that I look like the driver, the bus driver on the Muppets with the gold tooth. I've got a brown one, and I've made it through this podcast staring at your perfect teeth. I tell you, I'm going to force you to be my friend for the rest of your life. Amy, you are an absolute treasure. And we'll have all the links, all the stuff, but you have just been phenomenal.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kelly. I can't wait to give you a hug in person, and it will happen. I'm so glad we've reconnected, and I could not be more just in awe and impressed, and I bear witness to your journey. Of you said, I think I want to start doing this. Mood follows action. Go take some action, everybody. Thank you so much.
You're incredible, Ian. You're officially off the hot seat. Peace, love, and so.
Nothing more on my mind. I got to shine, so every day I grind. Work in the morning, work in the evening. We's achieving, cause we believing. It's for certain, we put the work in. We ain't stopped just because it's hurting. Right before your eyes, so it's coming to no surprise.